What's up, Grow Fam? It's Wednesday.
Hey,
Once again, it's Wednesday, the middle of the week. We all need that little something to get us through the rest of the week, right? I don't know, but today's Wednesday. It's another Waylon Wednesday on Grow Fam. What's up, Grow Fam? How's it going, everybody? It's Wednesday once again. Switching audio tonight. Yeah, so tonight, okay, we're good to go. Grow Fam Wednesday, Waylon Wednesday. What's up, Grow Fam? Getting that middle of the week going on right now. We're going to have a little sesh. We're going to hang out. We're going to have some fun. We're going to give away Grow Fam box tonight. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Waylon Wednesday, powered by Grow Fam. All right, everybody, what's up? Welcome to Wednesday, everybody. Waylon Wednesday on Grow Fam. We are on the Indoor Farmer Rumble channel as well. If you guys are interested in Rumble, ask me about that. But yeah, happy Wednesday, everybody. Happy midweek sesh. It's time to maybe, we'll have some fun and maybe find some information out at the same time.
Your vegetables!
One last drink and I'll be gone. Making camp with the flash on. Never really felt like I belong, so I'll be on my way and I won't be long. I'll be dead by dawn. 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 Scrolling through my texts, sharing left and right.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Wednesday night. We Grow Wednesday, 8 o'clock Central Time, only on Grow Fam TV and, of course, hosted by Waylon the Indoor Farmer. What is up, everybody? What is up? It's going to be a wonderful episode. We've got a brand new guest for you, very special guest that I've actually had in my sights for a while now. So we're going to talk to a special guest tonight. We've got our Grow Fam giveaway. I sat down, so now I look low. Here we go. We've got our Grow Fam box we're going to give away tonight. So stick around for that. Make sure that you get in on that one. And we've also got, we're going to do a couple of spins for my subscribers. So we're going to do that a little bit later on. Let's see. Any other housekeeping? I don't think so. Make sure you smash the like button. Share us out with your friends, guys. Share us anywhere. Text message us to somebody. Like send it out on Telegram. Not the app. Maybe we'll telegraph, or how about like Morse code? Pigeon, whatever you got to do. Send it out there. Let's have some fun. It's going to be a good one tonight. Let's find out who is our guest. Actually, well, before we find out, let me just read it off a little bit. I'm going to start doing this more. It's a little bit better to give you an idea of who we're dealing with. We have our friend Ed, and I'm going to play his intro in a second. 50 plus years, guys. 50 plus years experience in farming, food systems, regenerative agriculture, nutritious food for health. And now this is like a limited space here in his bio. So we're going to let him, from his own words, extrapolate a little bit on this. But nutritious food for health, soil, plant science. Also, it looks like with an emphasis on metagenetics, epigenetics, and metabolomics. We're gonna have him say that word here in a second. But yeah, definitely going to be an interesting conversation. Let's bring him. We have Ed in the house with us. Ed, how do I say the last name?
Bourgeois.
Bourgeois. Okay. Fancy schmancy. I like it. I definitely was not going to pronounce it that way, though. Ed, hello. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the fam. We are primarily on Facebook, but we are actually live right now in 2 different Facebook locations, 2 different YouTube channels, 2 different X profiles, a Rumble channel, and a Kick channel. So we are live all over the interwebs tonight to share what I think is really like a wealth of information, not to blow smoke at you or anything, but I've heard you several times on, we'll shout out to Apothecarol. Shouts out to Apothecarol over on X. I heard you several times on her spaces, and I'm like, man, this Ed guy. I'm definitely going to be looking into getting him on the show. And tonight, it was funny because I was messaging anyone that I could, because you can't always message people unless you're connected to them. Anyway, so I messaged Carol, and so she actually sent got us in a group message, and you were able to fill in, which I didn't have someone that was supposed to be here. I just thought I'd love to get a guest tonight. So thank you very much. I want to thank you first of all for just having the time to come on tonight. But let me hear it from you. Who are you? What do you do? What's up? Ed Bourgeois. Are we on a little bit of a delay, maybe? Can you hear me all right, Ed?
You got it.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not getting great signal where I am right now. Can you hear me?
It's a little separated from your video, but I can hear you okay. So go right ahead. Oh, well, we may end up having some technical difficulties here, guys. It's all good. Remember, the way I do the giveaways, hit that like button, share us out. You can do that on both my page, Waylon the Indoor Farmer, and on GrowFam TV on Facebook. So if you guys could do that, help us out, get us out there. Either way, you guys know I can just carry on. I have plenty of stories to bring up. We'll get Ed back on here, though. The first time he came on, everything was pretty smooth. So maybe he just hit like a bad spot there. Either way, guys, Ed is going to be an amazing guest to have on, even if not today, but in the future, and then multiple times. Because a guy like that, I'm not going to be able to scratch the surface tonight. I'm just going to try to let him go, and I'm going to see what we can, hear about, like his sort of passion, what he really focuses on, because it sounds like he's got a wealth of knowledge about a lot of different things. Yeah, he'll be back, Brenda. I'm sure he'll be back, but whether or not the signal works out for us this time. I mean, I'm excited to have connected with him. But we're definitely going to be picking his brain about all kinds of stuff. We did pass the 7:10 in the Mountain Time, so cheers everybody. I have my Twisted Cannabis cup here. I do love my Twisted Cannabis cup, but I definitely could see Grow Fam cup coming here too. You know what I mean? Maybe we could we have a cup with several awesome people. I don't know. Yeah. Boston George Junjman. I don't know who that is, Brad. What's that? Who's he about? Tell me what's up. What's this about? Yeah, we're patient. Yeah, I'm not gonna rush. And if he doesn't even come back, I mean, we got plenty to do, guys. Always something going on. We could talk about the new delicacies around. Like, have you guys seen my story I posted about the corn mushrooms, the mushrooms that grow on certain corn in certain like conditions? It's a delicacy, a rare delicacy in Mexico, Central America. I forgot the word they call it, but most people said on my post, I said, "What do y'all think?" And most people said, "No way, ew," And so we might pull that up later on. It's kind of interesting to me. It looks like blueberry mushrooms growing out of a piece of corn. I bet Ed's seen it, so we'll ask him here. It looks like he's coming back. I see him moving pretty smoothly, at least.
Yeah, where I was, I'm on a remote location right now on a back of a farm in a motorhome.
So we're going to talk about that actually, because that's one of the things about being out where you are and where people like you would be, like studying the actual nature. You can't always bring the internet with you, but I guess to a greater extent, it'd be nice if the whole Starlink thing works out. I'm not sure if it will or won't, but that would be nice to have some internet out in like more remote locations, wouldn't it? So where are you primarily based?
Grew up and spend most of my time in Massachusetts.
Okay.
Western Massachusetts.
I see. We know some people out there for sure. Shouts out to everybody. Where are you coming in from tonight, Grow Fam? Anybody over in the Northeast? Bring them in. We've got 95 people in the house already. Plus, let's check out Rumble. Yes, bring them in, guys. Definitely want to hear what Ed has to say. Ed, obviously, we're not going to be able to scratch the surface, like I was just telling the fam before you came back. Oh. Okay, got a few over on Rumble. All right, well, he booped out, but he was smoother that time. Things were looking better that time. Oh, there he's back. All good.
Okay, I think we're going to be okay now. Sorry.
Not a problem. Everybody's cool. We're still getting the fam in here. We're bringing them in. I do still want to just let you kind of go and who are you? What do you do? Just kind of give us like the nutshell of what it is. Like what is your main focus? What's your career? I guess how do you make your money? I guess let's let's ask you about that.
Well,
first.
I'm involved in agriculture, so you don't make money. We've known that for a long time.
Touche.
But it's rewarding work. So we're doing good for nature. So yeah, I mean, I grew up in a teenager in the late '60s and in New England here, and I'm in Western Mass where the Connecticut River is, and so there was a lot of farms, small farms, not like the Midwest or Plain States. A lot of dairies, some sheep, few beef, a lot of vegetables, horses, hay. Pretty good local infrastructure when I was younger. We lost a lot of it over the years, but it was availability. We had an early farmers market in our area, and we had one of the first CSA farms in our area, which people are the community shares, where you get like a box of vegetables a week and that kind of thing. We had
How
one
did
of
that
those
work?
first.
Did you have to pitch in in order to get out of it? Like, how did you?
Well, our area was, our area did that pretty early. We were, we always had a local farm. There's several places I can get local milk, things like that.
Real dairy, like
Right.
untampered
But
dairy.
and one of the first areas to have some, the real early rock and roll folk days imported from whatever country it came from, cannabis. So
yeah, you were
so
telling me
we-
a little bit off screen about your exposure to some of the actual original things coming from the actual
original
region.
origins.
Yeah.
Where you could actually taste the terroir of where it came from and the
Ooh,
the variety that it was. And terroir is the environment and the soil. It's used a lot in wine, French wines.
Okay.
You get it, or in the United States, it's from the Napa Valley. It has a certain flavor to it. Coffee, a Colombian coffee will generally have a origin flavor different than an Ethiopian coffee, different than a Kenyan coffee.
What about that
they're
coffee they make out of elephant poop? Have you seen that?
Well, or the civet poop stuff. Yeah, we've been against that. The Kopi Loak, the Loaks, we've been against that for a long time. Because the original story was, the people, they had to sell all the good coffee beans. So the poor local people would get the coffee that the civets would eat and poop out. And it became kind of a thing of the poor people. And they thought maybe it also had some, biome advantages to it. And then of course it got picked up as like being this delicacy and for ridiculous money. And then once that happened, the real stuff started to be, it's just like, farm salmon or something like that. It became farmed civets. And that became pretty abusive. And so that's that story. But anyway,
how things get popularized when they're not really good for us.
Yeah. Or good for the animals, certainly. But anyway, but in the 60s and late 70s, we had both the music revolution, the back to the land, but we also had the big ag, the big supermarkets starting to the big, department stores, spreading out around the country. And so food went way in the chemical ag thing of the 50s, post World War II with the nitrogen fertilizer and everything, that messed up farming. We knew about the Dust Bowl. I didn't grow up on a farm. My parents actually met as chemists at Monsanto.
I remember you saying that.
Not the pesticides, but in plastics, in the early days of plastic. So
I didn't know they were into plastics, but makes sense.
Yeah, originally that's back in the 40s, 50s. That was one of their big things. So they were the first to do AstroTurf. They have all kinds of bad history.
It's weird, yeah.
Now, as we realize it now.
What's the common denominator, do you think? Is it just chemicals? Like any chemical company is going to sort of branch into all these different directions where they can use it?
Yeah, I mean, back then it was like major, of course, that's pretty early TV too. It was before cable really and really got going. And so chemicals were the thing. Chemicals and everything could make everything. And it got heavily involved in agriculture. Of course, the synthetic nitrogen happened because after World War II and the atomic bombs were dropped early, it kind of ended the war rather quickly. And they had a huge infrastructure and huge stockpiles of nitrogen to make bombs. And they needed to think about something to do with it. So they thought, well, we can sell it to farmers as fertilizer. And we can keep the industry going. And that was part of the Norman Borlaug, the sort of they call it the green revolution, but I guess it was kind of a greenwash revolution.
Mm.
But so, and all that stuff was happening, and the food wasn't tasting as good, and ultra processed foods and more chemicals in them. And I liked real food. I liked nature. I didn't like what was happening to farms, but I was really fascinated in it. So
Hmm.
we had a tiny bit of land, and even though my father really didn't even like animals, my grandfather had a little greenhouse next door. I had a small flock of sheep, clean up a little orchard he had and stuff. And so I decided I wanted to, and he had all these little bottles and jars and cans with skull and crossbones on them that he'd have to fumigate the greenhouse, and he'd have to spray this and
Skull
mix
and
up that.
crossbones.
And
I can't believe we ever thought that would be some good stuff to have around. Yeah, just keep it away from kids. Skull and crossbones. Man.
yeah, when you're a little kid, and you see that, it kind of freaks you out, So I love nature. Nature. I had a little mountain about 1,000 foot behind me. Nobody lived on it. Had a brook. I used to go hang out in it, so I wouldn't have to. And I realized, nature's doing things pretty well, pretty balanced. I mean, like everything's perfect, but it doesn't get devastated. And then I'd go back down, and my grandfather's fighting this and fighting that, and you hear about it. Farmers are fighting this and spraying that, and so it's like maybe there's something wrong here. And it was the beginning of the organic movement and all that. And I thought, and I love the concept of farming.
Mm.
So even though I didn't have a farm, I thought, well, maybe there's a different way than what we're doing. And so I took at 9 years old, I took one of my grandfather's lambs that I had raised up to the county fair and said, I'm going to meet some farmers and find out what's going on. And so that sort of progressed on. And then I started showing bigger shows. And by the time I was 12 or 13, I was hitching rides with other farmers to the Midwest to go to bigger shows, meet more farmers, bigger farmers, and find out, like, is there any other way? How come we're not farming like nature? How come we don't, everything I go see in nature, and then I go back and I look at a farm, it's completely the opposite. Nature doesn't kill, it doesn't have monocultures, it has pests, but stuff doesn't get devastated without being sprayed. And it's like, what's going on here? And I started meeting other farmers.
Sorry, I know there's a little delay between us. Sorry, I just interrupt you each time, but I think that some of it has to do with people who lived through different major pest issues or major whatever outdoor issues, and some of these farmers, I think they swung too far to the direction of we gotta protect it all. And maybe besides that, there was obviously industry behind it pushing, saying so it's a good thing, it'll help you, it's good for your crops or whatever. So I think a combination of people who were just like too fearful of nature, right? Like too fearful of what nature actually does on its own, and they think they can control it. And then there's a combination of that and obviously propaganda coming from these big companies that were like, hey, we got to find something to do with the leftover fake nitrogen. So it's like this need to make things easier on ourselves, but then they play on that by making a good sales pitch, a good commercial for the Roundup or whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Well, and we also had this thing that nature was competitive, and that, we had to be the king of beasts, and the king of beasts survives, and nature's competitive. They, if you put a crop out, of course, everything's going to want to eat it. And it goes back to even before Darwin. And we did that to our cultures too. We thought everybody's, it's a competitive world, the strongest survive. Anybody that's different than you is a threat, and wars and over that. And we didn't really, because chemical ag had been going on for pretty much since the Industrial Revolution. The first pesticides came from the First World War, when were used for chemical weapons and stuff before they decided maybe that's not a great idea. And so, I mean, we've been in that path for a long time. And so we really didn't study. I mean, the first really look at soil under a microscope wasn't until about 1900, even though the microscope was invented before then. We just didn't know, what was going on down there. We would know that some things would eat the roots of our plants and then they would die. Or we knew earthworms, they seemed pretty, innocent. They didn't seem to be, we just didn't know. We certainly didn't know anything about the microbes or anything like that. So that's what we had to, but there was a lot of going back to even indigenous people, the three sisters, corn, squash, beans. Why'd they do that? Is there science to that?
Right. Companion planting, right?
Yeah. So, and protecting the soil and, like we do with cover crops now, and then questioning, why are we tilling? And of course, maybe we're harming something. And once we started knowing a little bit about microbes, because when I started in the 70s, really in the early 70s, really getting going and traveling and talking to people, the first thing we had to do to mimic nature was easiest start was mimic the prairie. Yeah. How did the soils build up with the bison moving on them? And then what was the patterns of the bisons? And it was the predators keeping them confined and moving. And what happens when you do that? And so that's where we started. And then we started to, do it with the crops. With early in the 70s, we were doing limited till, eventually led into no-till. Then we started doing the cover crops because about late 80s, early 90s is when Dr. Elaine Ingham, people have probably heard of. Yeah. She was the one that came up with with a couple other people, the soil food web. And she started to use a microscope, to try to understand the different organisms in the soil and what their functions were. And, the early starts of it were just really in the 90s when we started and didn't really go public much until early 2000s. But it was about the 90s too, when a lot of the bigger farmers in the Midwest, because the 80s were devastating for farmers. They just, the whole get big, get out, bigger farms, corporations taking over more and more of the system, consolidation, centralization, all that was happening. And a lot of farms were going out of business. In the 80s, we lost a tremendous amount. And so what a lot of bigger farmers, the only way I can survive is I got to cut down on my inputs. I can't, if I'm doing the commodity market, I can't control that. What I can control is what I spend.
Right.
And then we started saying, well, why are we tilling? Why do we need pesticides? Why do we need fertilizer? Why do we need fungicides, herbicides? And we started to think, well, how does nature really function? And it started with Dr. Elaine Ingham. And in the last, 10 years or so, now we're doing, metagenomics. We can send a soil sample in and they've got, I don't know what it's up to now, well over 15 million organisms, I guess, identified. So we can start
metagenomics. That's the word I couldn't say.
No, the one you couldn't say was metabolomics.
Metabolomics. My arch nemesis.
Yeah, that's where we look at the nutritional density, the nutrient density and spectrum of what we produce now. And we're able to do that. That's a very recent thing. But so we can look at the biome and we can learn, which organisms, which bacteria, which fungi are beneficial, which ones are not beneficial, are more pathogens. We can start seeing our colonies of them, our populations of different ones. And then we can learn how to steward so that we increase the beneficials. And then we can take.
We can do it in a way where we're not taking, but we're adding too. We can use the soil, but we can do it in a way where we're actually still building it up rather than breaking it down, right?
Right. It was always thought that, for what you took off, you had to put back on.
Mhm.
Well, that's because we didn't understand the regenerative powers of soil with the biome. And so that's what changed everything, was realizing, because, it was just like, and probably a lot of people still think, I mean, what plants produce nitrogen on their own? Legumes. But it's not
Yeah.
just legumes, it's all plants. We didn't know that till 10 years ago.
It's just like varying degrees. Is that the difference?
Yeah. Well, I could explain it now. So we got
Sure.
the metagenetics, where we're looking at, we can understand, the different organisms in the soil, the populations, what they do, how beneficial they are they pathogens? If we improve our conditions, we can get a rise in our beneficial and we'll lower our pathogens. And so then it's like we've always known that fungi are an endophyte, where it actually enters the root and has the fungal network and can trade, the plant can signal to the fungi that I need some boron, I need some zinc, and it'll trade boron or zinc for exudates, which are made by the plants. It's from photosynthesis, basically sugar compounds, and it'll use some of it for its own plant growth, but it puts a good percentage of them back down into the roots to feed the organisms, and they actually feed specific organisms for their specific needs. Just like if you want a pizza, you call the pizza delivery guy. You don't call well, now it's different because you have one that delivers everything. But the old way, you
One
call
time when I was
pizza.
a kid, I ordered like a Big Mac at Burger King, or I think it was a Whopper at McDonald's. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, but you
Yeah, I
can't
know what you mean.
call McDonald's and order Chinese food, So, but
Yeah.
plants are that smart, So, but what we found out about, it was first discovered in 2010 by two Australian scientists, women, that realized there was a role of bacteria in every plant in its biome. And they called it the rhizophagy cycle. Rhizophagy means roots eating.
Okay.
And what they realized is the plant is putting out the exudates through its roots, especially around the root tip. And it like ranches bacteria. And it grows up those bacteria, and then it can take them in slightly above the root tip between the cell walls as whole bacteria. It's a real whole foods diet. And then what it does is it shoots them with a superoxide, and it's sort of like it dissolved the membrane off of the bacteria, but it doesn't kill it. Sort of think like taking the shell off an egg, but not disturbing the egg part.
The poached egg.
Yeah. So and then it can get nutrients from it. I won't get into too many details, but then it can
There's
actually
a lot of growers professionally and high end hobby growers too watching right now. So you're welcome anytime. And Ed, I just want to remind you that, brother, I'll have you back anytime, and I don't expect to scratch the surface even of your knowledge base. So I'm just gonna let you go any direction you want to go, because everybody here needs to know more about soil. I mean, that's just a fact. I mean, even myself, I use aquaponics, but I also grow in soil. So go right ahead. That was interesting. I never knew about.
Soil's the magic. That's where the real magic happens. So anyway, so the plant does that. Then it can actually decide this is a really good type of bacteria, and it'll send it up through the plant and put it into the seed, so that it's inoculating the seed, so that when it gets exposed into the soil, it has that biome that's so important. Just like us as humans or an animal needs our biome to start with, or and we need colostrum, that has a lot of the beneficial organisms in it to get us started. We know that if we take a seed and totally sterilize it, and put it in dirt without organisms, it doesn't even know what to do. It doesn't even know which way is up. It needs its biome. And so, and then what it does is it also takes them, and when you pull a root, you'll see root hairs on it. And the only way you get root hairs is if you have biological activity in that plant, and it's shooting those as it shoots the bacteria out into those root hairs. The root hairs grow, and it'll spend some time in there, and it can even gather a little more nitrogen while it's in there, among other things. And then eventually it shoots it out the root hairs, and it can actually program it sort of like, okay, yeah, maybe it's like your DoorDash guy or something. Okay, you just brought me pizza, but now I'm going to need some Chinese food. So it sends it out with that signal, and then it's a cycle. And it's something that we just didn't know happened, and how powerful it is.
Let me try to tell you what I'm hearing, because I obviously you're way above my knowledge level. What it sounds like is some of the same pathways that plants use for certain nutrients, they're using for multiple things, but they are sending for them at different times. Is that something, or is that because they don't have, a vein structure, so they're going in between the plant cell wall, and almost, so not only bacteria, but the nitrogen, and even like Joe is saying here, some of the soil is being absorbed by the roots. And are you saying that that's the same spot there where the root hairs and sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we always thought of it more of like, plant roots or whatever. They're kind of like a sponge, and you put liquid mirror. It's sort of like intravenously feeding somebody,
Mm-hmm.
You put some liquid, fertilizer, and it absorbs it through the roots like a sponge, and that's the way they want to grow. And so that's why we think about it. And of course, that's what hydroponics is.
Yeah.
But
it's
that
absorbing.
isn't, but they don't want to be on like energy shakes. They want real food. They want whole food. They're actually, they're not really vegetarians. They're more, they're living on bacteria,
So you would say aquaponics or hydroponics, no matter which way you cut it, you're saying that's still sort of a short. Well, how would you describe it? A shortcut, or just
it's lacking.
It's lacking. Okay.
Because I think, most hydroponics are maybe considering like maybe 17 elements or something at most.
Right.
And a plant really it needs like 40 or 50 and way more combinations and compounds and the biome to really function properly and to be really healthy, which is just hard to do in hydroponics,
Well, I'm glad I don't call myself the hydroponics or the aquaponics farmer, but I do grow things inside with soil too, and I'm actually working on building a living soil bed. What would you say about growing things indoors? Obviously, the sun is a big issue, and so let's pretend that I have a greenhouse or maybe a building that has skylights to it. Let's imagine the sun is, not an issue. Do you think successfully? Maybe even I'll give you to a lesser degree, but we could supplement some of our food indoors. And actually, there's a few questions in the comments too, right after you answer that.
Yeah, you can get a biome going inside. I mean, you got to have a biome, and you got to have the sand, silt, and clay particles that have the diversity of the elements that a plant really needs. So, in other words, I mean, it's probably advanced with some of the advanced like cannabis growers and stuff, where what you do is you take some, basically call it difference between dirt and soil is dirt is the sand, silt, and clay particles, different size particles
Oh, okay.
with different types of rocks and whatever.
Right.
Soil means it has organic matter, which is carbon, which is made from either the dead microbes or dead plant material, and it has to have the organisms. That's what makes it soil. Soil is a living thing. Dirt is the base to that.
So when we call it living soil, we're really just talking about soil that doesn't have a bunch of synthetics in it, basically. We talk about living
Yeah, and the
soil.
more synthetics you put, and the more synthetics you put in, I mean, most of them are just, even synthetic nitrogen, it's just not good for the microbes, you know. It just, they never benefit. Any kind of fertilizer, actually, we're learning, you know, it's like if the plant can, you know, if you're sticking the needle in with the food or pumping in the energy drink or something, you know, it takes away your hunger.
Right.
You're not going to eat the real stuff. So
that's true. What do you think about worm castings? Like, would you rather just put worms in the soil? Obviously, that's probably the more beneficial. But what about things like that, like amenities versus what you might call fertilizer? Because let's be honest, worm castings is fertilizer, right?
Well, that's your organic matter and things like worm castings and those types of, you know, a limited amount use of like manures, nitrogen based, you know, something that's got, because plants do need a decent amount of nitrogen, most of them, and they can produce some of their own. But if we're inhibiting that, that's what, you know, I have farmers that are using you know, with thousands of acres that are using no fertilizer for years now.
No till, no fertilizer. They're just letting the organics.
They're doing. I have a buddy, Rick Clark. He's got 7,000 acres. He doesn't till. He doesn't use any synthetic or manured fertilizer. He doesn't use any pesticides, any herbicides, any fungicides. He does a lot of cover cropping. Cover crop is how he manages feeding his because the soil wants, those soil organisms mostly want, that are going to help your plant. They want exudates. They want the food from the plant. They don't want fertilizer. They don't want cardboard. They don't want, I mean, they will eat that. And the free ranging organisms and stuff, you know, that's why it's beneficial, you know, because your crop isn't going to be tightly planted. So you want all that soil to be living. So, and you do cover crops, and instead of, you know, using herbicides, we either green plant or knock them down, or use an annual that we know will die over in winter. So it won't be, but it'll leave a nice mat in the spring. So then we can plant into that mat. We don't have to worry about the weeds coming up. Because
nice cover up.
You know, I mean, of course, and for every crop, it's a different strategy. And now we're doing companion planting.
I like that.
You know, we're learning like intensely, like how does nature really work, and how it's mostly like, how do we get out of the way, you know?
It's funny because I think we used to know that more, like much longer ago. We would more work with it instead of trying to control it. I don't know, but let me interrupt you. Yeah, let me interrupt you here. We got a couple questions. Chaz had asked a little while ago, where did you go to school? That's interesting. Like, did you ever actually try to go and get any sort of official? Because it sounds like you've been going to school for this, you know, since well before, you know, it's like 10 years old or whatever. So like that, I see that as real world knowledge. But did you go to anywhere to study? That's a good question.
Oh, luckily I didn't.
Hey, because I agree. Yeah.
Because when I was, you know, as I said, I started at like 9. I was traveling by the time I was 12. I had my first, you know, regional champions of animals I was raising by the time before I got out of high school. And I was already traveling to production sales and big shows and meeting a lot of farmers back then. And of course, I met a lot of deans because all the big colleges would show at the big shows and all that kind of stuff, international livestock shows and that kind of thing. And
they'd
so
want to
I
try to
met a lot
recruit
of so I met a lot of deans and stuff, and they thought I was pretty unique. I came from a small farming state, and I'm out in the big Midwest, and I'm, rubbing arms with top farmers, and I was really into it. And they're like, "You ought to come to school." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're going to teach me how to run a feedlot."
Right.
And they're like, "Of course, that's the future in industrial ag."
The
And I
future
said, "I don't
industrial.
think it is. I think we're already
Definitely.
learning the power of nature, and and we're doing it in grazing, and I think we can do it in crops. And I think we're going to be surprised at the power of nature, and it might change everything." And they just said I'm crazy.
Yeah,
You know, of course, they didn't study it. They didn't know anything about that stuff. I knew more than them already back then. And so, but I said, I'll tell you, if you'll let me come to your school and independently study it, I'd love to do that. But they said, it's just crazy talk. So I did, so I did what I went, and I just kept meeting farmers all over the country, sharing ideas. And then I got into and I did independent study, before the internet. I'm going to libraries and finding out the history of what people have been doing, and then the history of like the land grant system, our state universities that were supposed to be about agriculture, what went wrong. Then I started to attend, USDA meetings, and then, in the last 10 years, when climate change became an issue and food become more globalized, I probably attended, I don't know, several hundred global meetings online talking about agriculture and food systems. So at this point, I'm into the people, mostly with farmers and researchers. We're looking at a paradigm shift of changing the world in 180 degrees in the way we produce food through regenerative agriculture.
Do you think
And
there's going to be pushback by these, whatever you want to call it, powers that be, big conglomerates, big industrial farm, businesses? But also on top of that, there's a question on the screen here. Michael asked you what would be, and you kind of started getting into it. He says, what would be your proudest moment? Would you think your proudest moment would be in the industry? And so we were kind of getting into it anyway. But yeah, you probably are going to have some pushback trying to change things for the better. And almost always inevitably.
Yeah, we've been getting pushback. We thought even in the 70s, because 70s was like a back to the land move, considering there wasn't an internet. And hell, a lot of my farmers didn't even have phones. So you're writing letters, or it's like, in 2 weeks, I'm going to visit my, sister or aunt in the city, and she has a phone. So, and it'll cost her like today's money, it costs us like $100 to talk for a half an hour, but we'll do it. That's how hard it was. But we really got something going, people got back to the land. We started the organic movement, at least going in that direction. People liked having all of a sudden food started tasting better. Pretty much the term back then was all natural. And it really was catching on.
I remember that. Yeah.
And it was starting to catch on, and we're like, okay, it'll just catch on. All of a sudden the universities will start studying it, and boy, were we wrong. As I often say, we went from Woodstock and outdoors in the fresh air and peace and love to disco and in a dark room with lights and polyester clothes and
some
cocaine
fungus. Oh yeah, cocaine too. Never mind.
Yeah, it really changed, and they crushed farmers, and the supermarkets got bigger, and the supermarkets, and we didn't realize the pushback we were going to get. So then we started up and the movement really started again in the 90s, and then we're like, well, we won't make that mistake again. We're going to keep this to ourselves. We're going to work underground. We're going to perfect the practice, and then we're going to have to produce the science, and we're not going to
show that it can be like reproduced. That's the big thing, right?
Right. You can't just say, I'm producing beautiful food and it makes me feel like I want to dance. And so it's got to be good. And of course, we can feed the world. And, where's the science? Where's the peer-to-peer review? All that stuff. So we were aware of that. And
that scares me
plus
right now. The peer-to-peer review stuff has been corrupted a little bit. Some of these science journals and things that they find fake articles being published, and people were doing it on purpose to show that it was doable. That worries me a little bit.
they've been corrupt for a long time.
Yeah, I believe it.
I mean,
I believe it.
People used to send me. I worked. We used to be able to communicate with a lot of university people, back through the extension service and stuff, when they used to call themselves agents. When an agent were somebody that would work back and forth between the college and the farmers. It's like a two-way street. And then the chem companies took over and everything, and then they changed them to educators. So in other words, they just put on a field day and you come and they tell you what to do and you can't ask any questions really. And you just take it and,
Right. That's what I do. Okay. I hate that about growing. And as I learn to grow stuff, I don't want to research it. I want to try it. And then when I run into a problem, like, well, why is it doing that? Then I will look into it. And obviously that's not a commercial scale. That's just a little hobby of like, okay, what's this plant do? Let me grow it. Let me see what happens. Let me just learn it, immerse myself in it. And then I can go to the books, because I don't want to know. I don't want to have a predisposed like notion of what's going to happen. There's another question I didn't want to miss from my friend Alan, who's got he's got many years of grow knowledge under his belt as well. And he says he thinks he's asking about strains of cannabis, I believe. Do you think there are some that would prefer the hydro, or maybe some strains of plants at all in general that would prefer those hydroponic systems versus soil? I mean, maybe water plants. I don't know. Would there be something? This was a few minutes ago. There might be something.
Maybe waters type plants that live in,
aquatic. Yeah.
Look to the nature of where the plant came from. I mean, I guess that sort of does say it. It's like, you don't grow oranges in Maine.
What if you were in a greenhouse? I'm just kidding. I want to build an indoor orchard. That's what I want to do eventually.
Yeah.
Like I want to have.
I'm not big in understanding a lot about greenhouse farming and stuff, because I'm more broad-based and soil focused and systems and the politics and the money and everything. I'm more systems, but I mean, one thing I have heard is plants need some ultraviolet. You don't get in a greenhouse unless you either, purposely add it, or have one of those types of greenhouses that you can open up part of the roof to direct sunlight for part of the day. If you're really going to have maximum health and maximum metabolomics, the spectrum and density of all the things you want in it. So that's really, in cannabis, the biggest difference is the taste, it's just totally not as full and rich and sweet that it could be if it was grown in the right climate for it. That's sort of the epigenetics. It's not the DNA that's necessarily the factor. It's the microbes and how the genes express themselves. And that's going to be environmental and with the microbiology are going to affect that. And so that's something like with seed production now, we've realized the whole concept of GMO and CRISPR gene editing to make our seeds better and stuff.
Better.
We're realizing that's the wrong approach.
What's a good cover crop to break up clay and soil? Most
microbes like it that are in the soil you can't reproduce in a lab. So like what we call the bugs in a jug, you know.
Hmm.
I mean, there are beneficial microbes that you can reproduce. You can reproduce your compost pile, and you can reproduce it in, you know, in a like compost extract, compost teas, all that kind of stuff. But the real most beneficial organisms can only propagate with the root system in a living soil with the exudates. And there's many of these bacteria and what we call endophytes again that live in the thing that only live inside the plant. And will be passed along in the seed. And like in one kernel of corn, there's as many organisms in a kernel of corn as there are people on the planet. One kernel of corn, 9
One
billion.
kernel of corn. Wow.
So,
It's
and we
crazy,
think
the
of,
smaller we go, the more the more of stuff there is. You know.
yeah, I mean, we buy a tomato, we buy we're worried about maybe somebody handled this or so we wash the outside of it. You know, we're like, okay, now it's kind of sterile.
Somewhat
It's
cleaner, maybe.
far from that. There's gazillions of organisms in that, in all of that.
Well, you want some of those, right?
And they're beneficial. It's like, with insects, we say this too, for every one pest, there's 1,700 beneficial insects. So why are we killing 1,699 that are beneficial to get that one pest? I mean, it's kind of foolish.
Wait, whoa. So you're saying that no matter the pest problem, you would still go with that? Where's the line?
There's not. Well, here's one.
Locust
Do
swarm.
insects eat healthy plants?
No, that's a good point. And usually that'd be a big no. If there's something wrong with the plants, then they're going to go after
if insects were like us, we want like the healthiest plant. How does the Amazon rainforest keep going? That would be a 5-star restaurant on Earth. Every insect would be heading there, and it would get devastated within years. You go through it, and you'll notice, how come all the plants are healthy? And how come there are insects, plenty of insects, but what are they eating? They're eating the lower leaves that naturally die off, whatever falls. They're natural selectors. So if a plant seed falls in the wrong spot where it won't really grow and it won't grow properly and healthy, it won't be healthy. What insects go after are basically what we don't want to eat. They'll go after the dying, the disease, the dead.
And so when we grow things inside, sometimes we get a concentration of the problem because they have nothing else to go and eat. So
it's because the plant isn't healthy.
Okay.
The difference, and we can measure that in bricks. That's the simplest way. Different insects, whether it be aphids up to beetles or grasshoppers or at more the top level, can only handle certain sugar levels. And so the higher your bricks level, which is measuring sugar, which you can do with the bricks meter, it's the simplest way to have a pretty good idea. Once you get above 12 or 13 bricks, insects can't eat it. It's just it's got too much sugar in it, and they can't digest it.
Is that you're thinking from us like spoon feeding that nutrients to the plant so much?
It's from it's not being healthy. In the environment, the healthy plants thrive and progress along generation after generation. And if they don't, they get consumed and something else moves in that will do that. That's called succession of soil or succession of plants. You go from a desert to an old growth forest. Now, in some climates, like around the equator that are naturally arid, you're not going to get a old growth forest. But as you improve the plants and set, like where there used to be, I mean, there's not many deserts that are really true deserts. There are, but most of what we have for deserts, like the Chihuahuan Desert between the United States and Mexico, used to be green. And so, and it was poor management, poor stewardship that caused it. Same as the Dust Bowl. It wasn't until we tilled the West that we had the Dust Bowl. And because we basically degraded the soil, we took the plant coverings off. We did it. It didn't look like nature anymore. And when it doesn't, you're probably going to have a problem. And that's what happened to desert. And, to create a lot of, it's called desertification. And so, for example, that Chihuahuan Desert between the United States and Mexico, a guy I know, and he's a regenerative farmer, about 10 years ago, he had 25,000 acres, kind of in the middle of it. And there's a lot of grazing done in that in more traditional type ways, which is the way for centuries people did it and thought it was the best you could do. But it's just because we didn't completely understand really the science of
why it was good, right?
And everything, which we learned from that bison concept. They're tight together because otherwise the wolves and that's what herding animals do. They stay tight in a pack. They keep moving. The natural selection, they shun the males so there's not an overpopulation of males and taxing the herd. Anything that's weak or diseased or whatever gets separated, falls behind, and that feeds the system. That feeds the predators and keeps the whole thing going. And so
I've seen a good way now with chickens and cows. You move the chicken coop behind the cows as they move, and I don't know. I'm probably butchering it, but there's like a way that they.
There's a guy, stock cropper, maybe you're thinking of. There's a guy doing this thing he called stock cropper. He has it's cool. It's a couple of young regenerative farmers, and they have a little thing they can put pigs, chickens. They use pigs, chickens, and sheep, and different combinations depending on what they want to do. And it's a little electric battery, little penned-in area that goes down in between. This is where they're doing a lot, where they're doing what they call relay cropping, where they do a section of one type of crop and then another section of another type of crop of a few rows at a time. So you get better sunlight, you get better, it just has benefits to it. Sure. And then what they do is they take this thing down, and it's got a battery and it's solar powered, and it naturally rolls along slowly. And the sheep or pigs are in the front, and then the chickens are in the back, and it helps improve the soil.
What I saw was just chickens, but it was automatically it had solar and it was moving with the chickens. But what I had seen before, there's somebody, I forget who was on the show, was telling me that they would just let the chickens roam in the in the patch after the cows had moved on, and then the chickens would get the bugs, and they would also, their feet would spread around the manure, and it would be like this symbiotic kind of relationship.
Yeah, because the real benefits of anything that moves is not. The fertilizer is relevant, but it's really spreading microbes. It's keeping microbial diversity. That's like, a cow has a cloven hoof, and so, as it walks, it punches a little hole. And it also has microbes, in its saliva and its pee and its shit between its hoofs as it travels. Makes a little hole so seeds can get in there. And then has a little depression for it to be watered. A cow pie is an incredible little ecosystem. It's got the water, it's got the nutrients, it's got the biome, and it's got the seeds that survive. It ate a quarter of a mile away a couple of plants, and now it's spreading those seeds when it poops, and it just keeps. Yeah. It's all about, they're the keepers of biodiversity. Birds are, because birds can travel long distances. Some turtles obviously don't cover a lot of ground. I mean, it's each one has their own role in maintaining biodiversity, and then the insects and the microbes, are the cleanup crew, and they're also the determine, what's healthy survives and what doesn't, the natural selection.
Alan, is cow tipping a real thing?
Well, I'm a sheep guy, so I avoid the. I
Sheep
spent
tipping a
more
thing?
time. I'm not going to get into the range wars, but
Hey,
they
so
do have the fainting goats that they're real.
I've seen those. I've seen videos of that for sure. Nancy, thank you for joining my group, Maccabees Live Market, presented by Wayland the Indoor Farmer. Go check it out, guys. We're up to 920. I might do a giveaway at 1,000. I wasn't really planning on it, but I might do that. And I want to shout out to Nevada. Prayers for Nevada right now, guys. I have seen this recently. Somebody was talking to me about it. I don't remember who. Apologies. But there's a giant wildfire raging right now in Nevada. So hopefully everybody in the fam's okay. Hopefully everybody's family is all right and such. So definitely prayers for them. And I should have brought it up earlier. I actually thought of a whole monologue about it. But it is 9/11 today, and we don't need to go through it. But some of you are young enough out there that don't even know what that means. So that is kind of sad how far we've gotten. So definitely, prayers all around. Hopefully the wildfires will calm down soon. But fire is part of nature too, though. I mean, wildfires are kind of needed, except we sometimes, like you said, bad stewardship will lead sometimes. I don't know about Nevada. I'm not talking about Nevada, but sometimes it'll lead to big wildfires because we let things get overgrown and not do not let the controlled burns happen. And that's a whole nother subject, I guess, but go ahead.
Controlled grazing is becoming a big thing in fire prone areas.
Good. That's a good idea
because when you don't have the animals, I mean, when growth happens, especially in, it's either going to be eaten or it's going to oxidize, which is basically burn.
Right.
So, that was the value of the bison in the prairie. It kept the grasses from just naturally dying and oxidizing and become vulnerable to burning, even if it's through lightning strike or whatever. And so it's important to have that eating action, keeping it green, not letting it build up and get choked out. So
what do you think the most important, if you were to pinpoint, maybe the answer is there isn't one that's the most important, but what's the biggest thing that we need to change? And I'm going to keep it to soil because, that's basically our conversation tonight. What do you think the biggest thing is that we need to change as far as our habits? Is it just cut out all chemicals, or does it have to do with bringing in what you're talking about, a combination of the animals and the land and figuring out how that's done in cohesion with each other versus just because there's two things here, right? One is taking away pesticides, taking away chemicals, being less dependent. And the other thing is learning how nature actually works, like you were saying. So what do you think the biggest step would be? Get rid of Monsanto first? I mean, what's the,
No, in our system, it was just the way we were just going to get pests, and you knew you were going to get pests, and you would spray ahead for them, and you knew you were going to need nutrients because your soil couldn't produce any because there was no organisms to do it.
Right.
So you knew you had to fertilize, you knew you had to do the stuff, and you just did it. You marked it on the calendar, and you spent the money, and you did it. But what we realized is, well, why do we need to fertilize? Why do we have a pest problem? It's the same, and that's how we're going to change. We're going to change health incredibly, because we now can. What we realized is just by managing the biome, managing the nutrition of a plant. In other words, it get most of its, almost in many situations, all it needs from the soil if you have the right microorganisms to process it and bring it to the plant. But if you don't, because some soils, especially if you're trying to produce a crop that's really not absolutely suited naturally for that soil, you might have to add a little something that you're lacking in your sand, silt, and clay. Might be some boron, might be some zinc, might be, but they tend to be trace elements, you know.
Minerals so big right now.
Once what we realized is, and only really in recent years, if we create a healthy plant that's truly healthy, nothing attacks it. You don't have pests, you don't have insect pressure, you don't have fungal pressures, you know, you don't have early blight on your tomatoes or your melons or whatever. Doesn't happen until it really gets cold, you know, when they naturally can't, and the days get short and they naturally kind of die. But, you know, we're able to produce. I have a friend, John Kemp, who's amazing at this. He has a company called Advancing EcoAg. I suggest everybody go to YouTube and look up John Kemp, KEMPF. He has incredible series of podcasts he does on all the sort of stuff we're doing with the top farmers and the researchers and everything. And he hasn't found one. He's been working on about 50, 60, 70 different crops. He's been, over the last few years, he's been on 3, 4, 5 million acres. And he hasn't found one pest or one plant disease he can't solve with just plant nutrition and biome.
So, okay, that gives me an idea then, which, you know, obviously they're both important, but to give like a base thing, okay, we'll get those two
In other
things
words,
done.
if you have a healthy plant, you're not constantly thinking about everything attacking it.
Yeah.
That's a mindset. If we
I actually have
live,
a plant. I have a plant for that, for this exact example. I'm going to bring it up here. Now, I think, and I'm going to push back a little bit because I think what happened, at least partly, is that we started thinking that bigger is better, right? So they thought, well, bigger is heavier. We're paid by the pound when it comes to farming. And so at some point, like, let's get bigger and bigger. You know, you have competitions at fairs and things on the biggest, you know, tomato or pumpkin or whatever. And so I wonder though, if like we just didn't realize, and we thought that meant, you know, more nutrition, when really sometimes like a giant tomato has no nutrition in it. Does that make sense? Am I making sense here?
well,
I'm gonna pull
yeah,
up
a
a
general
picture
thing
of,
is we focused on bushels per acre, you know, yield, instead of nutrition per acre.
yeah, exactly.
And that's what we're looking at, because in the metabolomics that I was talking about earlier, which is one of our recent things that we can now do in a lab, where we can analyze all of our fruits and vegetables and meat and milk and everything for the nutrient density and spectrum, you know, that's where we really find out that there's, and we were told for years from academia, there's hardly any variation, you know, a small bit, but like, for example, blueberries were 18-1. Things like carrots, tomatoes, squash, most everything was, you know, for what you think in other words, a nutritionist says you need to eat more blueberries or more spinach or more carrots to get the beta carotene, to get whatever that has in it. Like we use the example of vitamin C in the winter. You eat some oranges, so you get vitamin C, so you don't get a cold. Well, we test some oranges that have hardly any vitamin C in them at all.
I believe it.
And we compare it to how they're grown.
Do you know anything about microgreens?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but like, you're just so full of what knowledge. I also real quickly, I got to stop you because we got to do this giveaway real quick, and I don't want to. I want to make sure you know that you can go anytime if you need to go. Typically, I stay on for a couple of hours, and like I said before, for sure want to have you come back. But guys, I just wanted to say before we continue, make sure that you hit the like button on the Grow Fam TV live that you're on now, or on my page, Waylon the Indoor Farmer. That'll give you 2 chances to win the Grow Fam box tonight. I'm just about to pull the likes off of the Facebook, so if you haven't hit it yet, please do so. I'm about to grab them in just a second here. So Ed, I'm trying to get into microgreens, and I know it's a bit different because microgreens work off of that nutrients that's in the seed, and basically that's all they need is that first like week or so of growth, 10 days or so. Have you ever messed with microgreens? Do you think that's a sufficient? Because I know we talked about indoor farming, and that's different because a mature plant is going to need all those things that we talked about. But microgreens is a little bit of a gray area. What do we think about that? Like it's super packed of nutrients. They say it's supposed to be high, denser, and whatever, all the different nutrients. They're interesting. I like them. What do you think?
Well, I think that goes back to what I said, that we are now discovering a different perspective on what's a good seed.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, if those seeds that you're growing your microgreens in, because yes, it's true, what you want to do is you want to have those best organisms and nutrients in them, in that seed, in those like 9 billion organisms in a corn kernel.
Oh, right. So
And
where's the
and
seeds
what
coming
we're
from?
finding
Okay.
is the traditional way to produce seeds in mass, we did all backwards again. Most farmers use their least yielding land and would grow some seed for the seed corn companies. And they actually wanted a seed that was smaller, so you got more seeds per pound, more seeds in the hopper,
Yeah.
less times having to fill it, but then there's less food in that seed.
Right. That sounds
And then
funny.
they're growing it in the worst soil that has the worst biome. And certainly, and they're tilling, and it's got a lousy biome to start. So if you take a seed that's grown that way and grow microgreens out of it, and then if we were to do the metabolomics on it, you'd find probably the same thing that we're finding with everything else. That if you actually grew it in soil that, you understood scientifically enough and had the right organisms, the right minerals for the microgreens you're growing, and worked on those epigenetics so that you're constantly cycling and improving the gene expression in that seed, you're going to get better and better, more nutritious microgreens. It's the same thing with like, what we call baby spinach, There's a lot of baby spinach. You go to the supermarket and it might as well just be a green piece of paper. And
lettuce
then
might as well be.
right. And yet you could grow it in some really good soil and it's going to be lush and thick and flavorful and have the nutrients that the reason why we need to eat it, We know living on junk food isn't working.
Yeah, that's definitely not working. We actually, for some reason, we like to do this sort of post care, not preventative maintenance, right?
Right.
So, did you see? You had to get out and come back in earlier when I had brought it up. I didn't bring it up on screen, but I was talking about a post that I recently shared about corn having this fungus on it. Have you seen this? It's like a
Oh
delicacy.
yeah, that's actually I can't remember what it's called. It's very edible.
Yeah, there's a Hispanic name for it, Mexican, Central Mexican name, and yeah, it's something that I posted. Most people said nope, no, thank you. I'm like, I don't know. I think I would try it. I gotta give it a try. I mean, Anyway,
Yeah,
I
I mean,
thought maybe you'd seen it.
we have such a weird mindset on things, you know. We've been trained in some kind of weird ways about food and why some people, you know, they can't eat a raw oyster, that's too weird, or
It's weird for
liver,
me. I'll tell you that much. I would like
and
to
stuff,
start eating
you know.
some liver, but I don't know. Haven't done it yet. What's the
So, but
weirdest thing
yet
that
it's
you think
one,
that you eat?
and any wolf or dog will say, you know, buddy, you're my friend because you go and eat the meat, or you go eat the soybeans, and I'll take the liver.
I'll
That's
take
what they
that.
go
Yeah.
for. They go for the organ meats. That's where the
Oh,
best nutrition, some of the very important nutrition that we really need, you're only going to find in the organ, you know, in the concentrations are really beneficial. And you
yeah,
don't
you're
have to
not
eat
the
much
only
of
one.
it, but
You're not the only guest I've had on to say that, and some have been to the extreme of only eating meat. I've tried that. I've done the carnivore diet thing, but you're right. I think we need more meat in general. I'm not trying to say that you have to eat meat, guys, but I just personally think we need more. There you go.
well, it's the best plant-based
Yeah,
because
it comes from
we
plants.
we we've done. I mean, a cow, like one a great ranch that we've tested is called Alder Spring Ranch out in Idaho, and they raise beef. And Stefan, the guy who does the metabolomics, he's visited their ranch and he's tested their beef, and they're grazing, and he goes out in the field and he, you know, understands what they're eating, and really healthy biome of the soil, and over 200 plants. So, and we know now that when that cow eats those 200 plants, it gets into the meat, all the elements and everything.
Mm,
And so, show me a vegan who's got a diverse diet with 200 plants in it.
touche.
That's what a
See,
that's what
that's
a
a good way to put it.
that's what a carnivore is eating. He's got
Yeah,
a
that's a great way to
diversity of
put it.
200 plants. That's what he's eating. We can identify all those compounds, all those what we call phytochemicals or phytonutrients, plant chemicals, plant nutrients, and that's what you're getting. And that's why. And of course, you know, if you've got all cows are grass fed in their early part of their life, and they're usually, and some of them are now, you know, then they got into the feedlot to finish them, to fatten them,
Right, with whatever
you
feed
know.
they can.
And but that, see, then when you do that, it's limited feed again. You know, then you're down to, you know, food processing byproducts, and you know, mostly corn because it's high energy, it puts on fat. Actually, not that much soy because they're not looking for the extra protein. And then some byproducts from food processing, you know, other vegetables and whatever. And but that's what they're eating. But that's the problem with chicken and pork now, because
Yeah.
they're not being raised outside. They're on a very limited diet, and one main element of their diet is soy. And soy in a small amount is okay, but we've got way too much soy in our
Yeah,
diet.
I agree. The soy is crazy here. Dixon Herbert says that corn smut was the name, as the American name
Yeah.
for the.
Yeah.
It sounds naughty. Both names there. But yeah, good luck, everybody. I'm going to hit that spin. Remember, you got to be here to win unless you are a subscriber of mine. Actually, real quickly, we might as well play a quick word. Have you ever, you know what, you probably know about some biochar, Ed. Let's watch a quick little video on some food biochar. I'm going to be mixing this into my living soil bed that I don't know why I'm calling it living soil anymore. It's just a soil bed. Yeah, we're going to watch a little video on the biochar. It is a couple minutes, and then we're going to do a spin. I'm going to do a little medicinal intake here. Cheers, everybody.
Biochar is charcoal used for agriculture, and it's a game changer. It is created through a process called pyrolysis, a technique that bakes wood in a low oxygen setting at high temperatures. The result is a carbon-rich charcoal that improves soil health and fertility. Here's the science behind it. The porous nature of biochar provides an ideal habitat for beneficial soil microbes. These microbes, in turn, help in the decomposition of organic matter, releasing nutrients into the soil. Additionally, biochar also has a high capacity to retain water and nutrients. Not only does this save resources, but it also makes the soil more resilient to drought and nutrient depletion. Here's a good way to think about it. Biochar acts like a sponge, soaking up nutrients and water and releasing them slowly over time. The end result is healthier, more fertile soil that supports robust plant growth. And this practice is nothing new. Thousands of years ago, South American indigenous tribes utilized biochar in their agricultural practices. You probably didn't know that the Amazon rainforest is actually a man-made garden, with biochar as the key ingredient of an ancient supersoil, and it remains some of the most fertile on the planet thousands of years later. Despite its benefits, biochar can initially compete with plants for nutrients due to its high absorption capacity, potentially reducing nutrient availability to plants when first added to soil. Organic inoculated biochar by Foop Organic Biosciences solves this problem, and it's like nothing you've ever seen before. This biochar is inoculated with fish manure, providing it with a ready supply of nutrients and beneficial microbes. As a result, it will immediately begin to enrich your soil and will never compete with your plants for nutrients. By using this organic inoculated biochar, you're not just adding biochar to your soil, you're adding a nutrient-rich, microbe-packed soil amendment that's ready to start benefiting your plants straight away. So, whether you're a farmer tending to vast fields or a gardener nurturing a small vegetable patch, this new organic inoculated biochar can help you improve your soil health and fertility, which will allow your plants to uptake nutrients more efficiently. Biochar represents a bridge between the past and the future, a tool that was once used by ancient civilizations and is now being harnessed by modern agriculture. Try Foop today and see the difference for yourself.
All right, some biochar. I cannot wait to mix that in with my goodies. Guys, the Dabbing Dragon wasn't quite ready, so I'm gonna put the spin wheel full screen. Good luck, everybody. We're still here. Cheers. Good luck. Who's it gonna be? It is a big wheel, William. Hell yeah. Sophia Edwin. Sophia Edwin. Alan, okay, I see you, Alan. Alan says he identifies as the winner. All right, well, we got to take him at his word. Congratulations, Al. Well, I'm sorry, Sophia. Let's see if Sophia has hung out for the conversation. It's okay if not, guys. I do use the list of likes off of the post. So if you don't stick around, it's all good. But that is for me, it's a good way to help get that engagement going on both sides. It really helps. I like the way I do this because that hashtag tool has been really annoying. All right, so we're gonna spin it again. Good luck, everybody. Sophia has had a few 30 seconds or so. Unless, yeah, I'm not seeing her. Is anyone else seeing her? Everyone's still saying congrats, but that's okay. Let me change my username. Be right back. Well, Ed, is there anything that you want that like what's the thing that you might want to promote the most? Is there a company or you want us to go check out your X channel and their X profile? There's a few of us that are on X. I mean, a few of my followers.
Yeah,
Let's
I'm on
promote
X
yourself.
at I'm on X at eBourgeois, and I if you go to my profile there, I have a YouTube playlist that I've put together over the years. I keep it updated. I try to keep it around 30, but I think I've crept up around 40 videos, and it covers pretty much all the science and all the practices
Thanks,
that we're
Ash.
working on.
Okay, yeah, we'll check out the YouTube videos. That's probably going to be even more in depth if you liked the conversation tonight.
Yeah, and you
Obviously,
get to hear from the farmers too, and the researchers that work with farmers, so they can really relate. And recently, I've been trying to connect a lot more to medical researchers around the world.
oh, nice.
Especially, there's a movement of young science researchers, especially around health, at both human health and then environmental health. And so they're they have a hard time getting funding. It's all controlled, and academia is controlled, and so they've done this movement called DSci, which is decentralized science.
Hmm,
And we
that
meet a
sounds
lot
good.
on spaces on X and stuff, which are live like we're doing tonight.
Yeah, I need
And
to get in on more of those. I do like Apothecaro Space, but I want to find more like that, like what you guys are
yeah,
doing. So,
Apothecaro's great. She has
yeah,
great hosts
when do
on
you
it.
do your space?
I do them randomly.
Okay,
I haven't done a space in a few months. I was doing them on regenerative agriculture. I've done maybe 20 of them in the last couple of years. I don't do
keep
anything
an eye out.
regular.
Sure.
I've been attending a lot of different people's, and especially in this DSI movement. That's something I'm really, and of course, with Robert Kennedy has been a big proponent of healthy food and regenerative
Mhm.
agriculture, and he's finally brought it to national attention.
A little more mainstream, yeah. Yeah, like
Yeah,
him
because
or don't like him, that's for sure. It is becoming much more of a table or kitchen table issue, right?
yeah, if you look at his issues, he started out cleaning up the Hudson River from toxin pollutants, and then he worked on the CAFOs, the big hog farms, the big chicken farms, feeding the commercial GMO feeds and trying to fight the pesticides. But then he realized that, that he discovered the regenerative ag movement and started meeting a bunch of the farmers. And he did about a year ago, he had a round table with a bunch of them. He's had Nicole Shanahan, his running mate, actually was a producer in the movie Kiss the Ground and the movie Common Ground.
Hmm.
Kiss the Ground came out about 7 or 8 years ago. It had a bunch of regenerative farmers and scientists, but it also, it was made for mainstream. So we had the, Woody Harrelson and Giselle Brady, and we had the celebrities as part of it, and that went pretty well, but it took a long time for them to make it, so it became out of date.
Mm.
So a few years ago, they started a new one called Common Ground. It's been out for just under a year at theaters. Um, and they've done a nice thing. They've been showing it at theaters, and they've also been putting panel discussions after the movie so that people could ask questions. And
That's
they've had
cool.
some of the farmers that are in the movie, or local people that do this stuff. And so it can really educate the public. And Common Ground should be out on a streaming service. Kiss the Ground's on pretty much all the streaming services, but it's not on YouTube, but any of the, Netflix, whatever. And Common Ground, I'm kind of hoping that before Christmas, it'll probably get onto, I'm not sure, but it'll probably be Netflix or something to start. And I highly recommend watching that because it goes from the problems of where we've been to the future of where we can go. And that's what we're really excited about. And as I say, especially around human health, because as Robert Kennedy has been bringing to the public attention, recently, I mean, we look at our kids and obesity and chronic diseases and autoimmune diseases and depression and everything. And, when I started meeting with people that are doing the research around the world for the drugs to treat these diseases, I started going into these rooms and I would say, your job's impossible unless we as farmers change what we do. Because, it's kind of like putting a race car out on a track and putting crappy gas in it, then wondering why the car you have to keep fixing it. Why did the engine blow? Why do we got to put a new engine in? We're always treating the things. I often say they're more careful when they make gas to put in our car than they are food that we put in our bodies. And that's been the problem. Our food is really, it's not just the ultra processed foods, that's part of it, and the sugar and all that sort of stuff, and then the added chemicals, the preservatives, the colorings, the artificial flavorings. All those have little bits of roles, but the main thing is it's the nutrient density and spectrum that we've lost. So our food just isn't doing what it needs to do to keep us healthy. And we realize that if we change the food, same as we've done with plants, we can have really healthy people. You're always going to have some, metabolic diseases and stuff like that. But, the amount of diabetes and, obesity, and what do they want you to do? Take a GLP-1 Ozempic to lose weight that costs like $1,000 a month to offset the fact that you have a lousy diet,
This plant
that's
here, this plant here is a volunteer plant. It's outside. I've been showing it off my show on Mondays. And what's funny about this plant is it's some seed that, and actually there was a bunch of seeds that were growing from plants that I had outside above ground in pots, and those plants ended up producing some seeds because there's some light next door and this and that. But anyway, this is the only plant I let survive, and I basically did nothing at all to this. Like, it's not going to be the highest yielding plant, and I think that would be where some people might be like, well, that's a, I'm not touting this as as like the best type of bud or the biggest plant or anything. But what I am saying is I didn't have to do anything to it. I didn't have to treat it with anything. I didn't have to hit it with like the stuff I use inside. I use this stuff called Prime Superior. I didn't have to use any sort of preventative. I didn't have to use anything at all. And I look at it every day. It looks great. There's zero, like there's very few bugs even on it, good or bad. And it's crazy. That this is kind of what we were talking about before, how it's, sometimes less is more. And if you can see it happen on its own, and don't get me wrong, something could attack it, something could happen, but where
and
do
if
I
you
want
really focused on it? So in other words, let's say you tried 3 or 5 different seeds in the soil you had, and then you keep improving the health of your soil by keeping it covered, by keeping other plants growing in it off season, to keep, adding compost or even biochar a little bit to that. And then you keep saving, that plant will adapt generation to generation to your soil. And it'll get better and better. You'll find ones that'll get better and better, and then you'll find ones that won't do as well because they're a different variety. They're designated for a little different type of an environment. And you take the better ones and you keep breeding them in that soil, and they'll just get better and better because
I don't
they'll
even know
get
what it is,
adapted.
the brand or the strain or anything, so I'm not really worried about it. But it is just interesting to me that it seemed to be like the healthiest one so far that I've grown, not size wise, but just no issues. It's funny.
Right.
So I do want to bring up though. I'm going to put up this other wheel. We're going to do some spins for my subscribers. We've got about 20 minutes left in the show. Ed, it's been great, man. Obviously, if you have any questions for us, or if you have anything that you'd like to final promote, and I also, yeah, I'd like to find time to hit up your spaces too. Probably see you on Sunday mornings more often too. I'm trying to get in there as much as I can.
Yeah, I do Carol's thing. And as I say, if people follow me on, or if some of you follow me on Twitter or X, and, I plan on, I want to start doing a few more spaces, or once in a while, I'll post a space that I'm invited as a guest on. In fact, in our D-side movement, we've even gotten on Mario Nawfal's
Nice.
spaces a couple times, who's the biggest guy on X with spaces, and
Oh yeah.
we'll have 45, 50,000 people.
So who's we? Like, do you
When I
have
talk
work for a
about
company,
we,
or
it's the movement.
so you probably have a
Where,
group of
it's the
other guys?
regenerative ag movement. We all work together. We all collaborate. We're not protective. We're not patent. We're open source. We're sharing ideas. We're promoting each other's ideas. We learn from each other. We go out and spread what we learn. We share practices with other farmers. We spread it with the medical researchers, with the microbiologists. It's a group. It's the people. It's a grassroots effort. That's where change needs to happen. You never make a paradigm shift from the top. It's always grassroots, and you
Right.
you
The
gain
culture.
momentum.
Mm-hmm.
It's
So
like that
Joe
was
says,
the cannabis movement, or
right,
the
exactly.
artisan coffee movement.
Joe,
All
Joe, don't say it, man. I've been cooking with aluminum foil. Just don't cook on aluminum foil. I don't know what to cook on, man. We just go back to cooking on rocks. If we don't cook, we
there
don't
you
like.
go.
I don't like plastic. I don't use microwaves. It's so difficult to figure out what does not poison. I use an air fryer, but I did read up on the dangers of air fryers, and evidently it's a certain temperature. So I actually lowered the temperature of my air fryer so that it doesn't do that. But I do use aluminum foil. What am I supposed to do now, Joe? Man,
Well, what we're thinking is, if we can get the nutrition in our food,
a lot of other things
we'll
kind
be
of.
a hell of a lot more resilient
That's
to
true.
things. That's
Our
the
immune
problem.
system in general, yeah.
Our immune system, that's why,
Detoxifying and
that's
stuff.
why COVID nailed the United States, because we're sick. Most of the
You think
people
it hit us worse than other people, other countries?
yeah, there were a lot of areas where people don't necessarily, there's actually a lot of hunger, but at least what they eat is somewhat real.
Mm.
And that's the problem. I mean, we're eating 30% of our meals behind the steering wheel of a car. 65% of our foods we eat are ultra processed.
Bye, Sherry.
It's
Yeah.
we're so far removed, and we have no idea. We've lost any much sense of how important that is. And that, the thing is, it's like people say, well, it's like we talk about kids, you give a little kid the fruits and vegetables and they don't want to eat it. That's a natural instinct. It's not that they don't want to eat those. It's what you're giving them. You're giving them green paper and tell them to eat the spinach. It doesn't taste good. It's like those tomatoes off season, that taste like nothing. And you eat them because you're like, well, I got to get some vegetables in me. But you don't want to eat them. But then when you go and you have a real strawberry or a real tomato fresh out of a real soil garden, you want to eat more. Kids want to eat them. That's our problem. And the supermarket has got us messed up. We go around the outside where all the good stuff is. And unfortunately, because we're not that turned on by it, because it's not triggering that satisfaction when you eat it. There's a reason why we're hungry.
There's some of that, but there's also propaganda where the packaging is all flashy on the stuff that's.
Oh, yeah.
There's a character on it or whatever. My tomato doesn't have Mickey Mouse on it, or that's part of it.
And plus, they can chemically make it so that it's like addictive. You can't just eat one. Why do people sit down and eat a whole bag of Oreos? But if you actually taste them and really look at, they don't really taste good compared to something that's real that actually, if you ate side by side, I say that's better. But no, when you compare green paper to Lucky Charms, a kid is going to take the Lucky Charms.
So Kim has a good point here. And actually, Jesse, the smart guy for sure, would like to see him again, talk about soil science. So actually, you've had a lot of good compliments tonight, Ed. A lot of people are blown away by the knowledge. Kim, though, it makes a good point because, I'll just read what she says. People have demanded these types of food. The market responds to whatever demand. Now, she's right, but in a tongue-in-cheek kind of way, because the demand is for cheaper food. It's always for cheaper food. And so how do you get that? More factorization, less worry about nutrients, more worry about just like size and weight. And so I think that's what happens.
Think about the problem with our food systems, like in the United States. What is the cheap food that's unhealthy? That's subsidized by us.
Which is ridiculous. I don't get me started on
food isn't subsidized.
Don't get me started on subsidies. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. Why do we subsidize feed and just like calories, like soy and corn?
Soy and corn and wheat and sugar and
like what is that about? Can we subsidize something good? That's what I'm out here trying to do. Let's make it more popular to think of better sources of our
and
food.
The worse you grow it to their standards, the more subsidy you'll get. That's why a lot of regenerative farmers couldn't even get subsidies or couldn't even get crop insurance because they don't follow the standards. You're planting cover crops. That doesn't fit with the system, so you can't get insurance. But the one thing about regenerative agriculture, most of the guys I know at scale with hundreds and thousands of acres are taking no subsidies and no crop insurance. They're not costing the government anything. And what they're doing is they are doing the externalities that the corporate food system isn't covering. We're making sure the water stays clean. We're making sure there's biodiversity. We're making sure that the soils aren't flowing down rivers and losing our topsoils. We're making sure that the food is healthy so we don't have to keep this $4.7 trillion sick care system that we're running every year in the United States.
Yeah, sick care for sure. Hey, Ed, what do you think about bugs? Like Joe says here, the additive that you'll see on your packaging is cheetah, which is cricket. They're adding it in now without us knowing or not telling us.
That's at the new Bill Gates fast food restaurants, right?
Ooh, I haven't seen that, but it sounds about right.
I imagine he'll try to capitalize on the bug burgers and everything. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of cultures that eat bugs, and bugs certainly can be very healthy for you, but that's not the solution.
Right.
You know, I
I
mean,
I agree.
and actually, I guess I hear that in a way, lobsters are in a way a bit of a related to an insect, and I love lobsters. So,
Ooh. It's yeah, I've heard a comedian make that joke where it's like they're just big bugs on the bottom of the ocean.
right.
So
And they
okay.
used to just
Okay.
feed them to prisoners in New England.
That's
Initially,
funny.
rich people didn't eat them. They fed them as prisoner food, and until we realized, they're actually pretty tasty and actually pretty healthy too. So,
Is that like the
yeah, I
story of
mean,
salad that like poor people invented salad? I don't know if that's true or not, but
yeah. Well,
it is what it
but
is now.
anyway, I guess thanks for
But
having me
yeah,
on.
thanks a lot.
It's been a pleasure. I don't know who's in the room or anything, but hello,
There's
everybody. It's nice to meet you.
130
And
people watching you right now.
what's that?
There's 130 people watching you right now.
Well, great. And I hope I shed some information and
Oh
didn't
yeah.
put too many people to sleep or bored them to death so they couldn't win the prize. But
Nah.
anyway, I try. But thanks,
You did
Waylon,
great.
for having me on. And I'll keep in touch. And
Yeah, we'll
I
talk to you
said,
soon.
people check my profile. And if you want to have me on again, and we can even, if people have something more specific,
Right. Soil
um,
science, I think, is what I saw the most.
yeah, we could get into that. I mean, and people, I said, I've got my playlist. Um,
Here, let
maybe
me
you
show you
could,
this before you go. Look at this is it's a live footage. Oh,
there you go.
that's my little aquaponics experiment. So yeah,
I
it's
used
not
to
perfect.
have a little spot before it was legalized. I had a little spot and I had some walls around it and everything. And so they couldn't be seen very easily. And I had my own varieties that I keep maybe 6 or 8 plants and I kept small ones. I eventually crossed them with what they call mini mites just for paranoia's sake.
There's actually no cannabis in that picture though. This is my aquaponic system where I have sweet potatoes, green onions, basil, lettuce. There's mint. There's Miss Phyllis, a philodendron, my only house plant at the end there in a pot. There's also a pineapple and 3 pepper plants and a little bit of arugula growing in that.
There you go.
No cannabis indoors at the moment, but yeah,
Well,
it's
I mean,
aquaponic. So I got to add stuff. I got to add those things that it's missing, which like you said, I won't be able to fully do, but it's a
yeah.
supplemental thing. Wintertime.
I mean, plants are so cool. I mean, we're realizing plants are conscious. Plants are incredibly intelligent.
Yeah.
Plants communicate incredibly well. The root system of a plant is the roots in the soil. The soil is like our brain. We have to have a brain for all the neurons in the network to be
Right.
in as a substance. Well, the roots in a plant are basically a brain and full of neurons, and they're always communicating, and they
Oh, I
can
heard the
detect.
mushrooms have a role in that, right? The mycelial layer helps to trees can talk through it or whatever. We'll talk
Oh
about that
yeah,
next
it's the
time. Sure, that's
communications
pretty good.
network. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's the real internet,
Yes.
um, and it's
I've
the
heard that.
distribution system. We're realizing that the bacteria that travel within the fungi and bring a lot of the nutrients. It's like the highway of sort of like truckers, with the nutrients
Yeah.
going back and forth, and how they can switch direction. I mean, plants are fascinating. I mean, and
Never
actually,
ending.
one of my favorite plants, because I did a little bit of work in the artisan coffee industry with the coming of started about 20 years ago of treating coffee real, kind of like craft beer.
Sure.
But with coffee, growing it right, learning how to roast it right, not just burning it, but bringing out all the natural terroir, the flavor. And so when I worked on that, I actually grew. I've grown my own coffee plants. I had one for about 8 or 9 years. It's hard because I'm in New England, so I have to bring them inside and put them outside in the summer, and
I was
they
just
get
gonna
kind
ask
of pot
that.
bound, but
I
they
want to
are
do
a
that. That's a good idea.
fascinating plant.
How
And of
much
course,
did you? Okay, that makes me ask more questions. We need to end this, but you make me think about like how many plants I would need to like grow a batch that I could that you could sell a
you're
bag of.
no, it's hard, especially if you're in a more northern climate with the sun and everything. It's hard to get much yield. A lot of people that grow a coffee plant, it takes a good 3 or 4 years before you're going to even see any flowers.
Mm-hmm.
And you're never going to see it as much as because coffee's generally, in 10 degrees or so each side of the equator. So it's really a tropical plant. So,
but I could do it
but I
inside.
used to have my plant inside of a glass slider and it'd be snowing outside. And it was the variety was Typica that I had, and I called her Tippy. And I'd say, "What do you think of the snow out there, Tippy?"
I don't like it. I don't like it. Well,
so yeah, fascinating plant. But we can do that another day too. So thanks, Waylon, and everybody for having me on, and have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you again, Ed. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon. All right. Excellent. Wow. Okay. So much to think about there, but I do want to point out the winners tonight. I didn't really do a lot of announcement of the winners. The winner from the Girl Fan Box was Tabby Dabby Doo. Where you at, girl? You might not be here, but guess what? She gets the Hash and Dash immunity on We Grow Wednesday for being a member over there on the indoorfarmer.locals.com. Now, something else I didn't mention. We do have our 2 number winners tonight. The hats, not this hat. You can't buy this hat. This is my new hat. It was made and given to me to because my order took a little longer than it should have been, and it wasn't really his fault. Like things happen, but he went above and beyond, and he shouts out to Jim City Lids, made me this cool hat, and so many more. So everybody else can purchase some of these hats, and I do know Ash already bought one. I have to find out which one. I forget which one he said he wanted. And Ash and Nico already bought them. I know a few other people are planning to get them, and I'll just show you a few here real quick. Yeah, we had our 2 numbers. 2 of the number spins for my subscribers tonight was number 1 and number 17. So I'll be looking up who that is here shortly. Yeah, there's some curve bills. You got curve bills like the black one that I was wearing, but a curve bill style, which I like a little change up. You got black and gray. You got blues. You got like blue and gray. I can't remember which one Nico wanted. I think he said black and gray. You've got different styles of black and gray. We've got camo. A couple people were liking that camo. Like there's 25 different styles. There's a camo one right there. So I'm actually thinking of, especially if these go as quickly as they sound like they're going to go, because clearly I only had 2 people buy them so far. But if they go as quickly as that everyone's saying that they want one, will get one and such, then I will most certainly go and get more. And I'm probably going to put them on the growfam.com. Ash and I talked about it a while back, but I'm thinking if I can keep that up and make more. Got the pink and white one. You got the old Vikings colors here, gold, purple and gold. Chris Fisher probably going to want this solid purple one over here. There's a solid purple one. You got like this, like a different kind of like 2-tone gray plus blue, kind of different. There's a John Deere type. John Deere Green, not John Doe. Sorry, John Doe Green is a different thing. Gray and black. You got red and black. You got a bunch of pinstripe flat bills too. There's a red and black. No pinstripe on that one. There's a whole bunch of them, guys. A whole bunch of them. I might make a little video or a little picture collage of all the different colors. I'm not sure how I'll do it exactly, but you can get a chance to win a hat once a month if you're a subscriber, getting different variations of amounts of chances to win. I'm sure there's an easier way to say that, but anyway, you get different amounts of chances depending on how much of a subscriber and how long, and also the tickets that I'm giving away. The people that won the number wheel tonight, they can actually choose a ticket instead of cash. So hang on. Yeah, there's a whole bunch more than that. I just grabbed one little sleeve there and thought I'd show them off. Let me get back to the comments here. Waylon, hi Mary. Yes, I take a pink and white one. Okay. I haven't decided, but I guess Cash App will work. I don't want to overload. A lot of people say they've had some problems with Cash App. I've never had the problems with Cash App, but you didn't win a hat, Jess. You can have a ticket on the hat wheel. Jess, let me who won hats tonight? Nobody won hats tonight. Let me find where Jess at. I want to take it. Okay, there you are. Okay, Jess. Thank you for saving me the work. Jess was number 1. Yes, I have a list here. Anybody who is a subscriber already needs to let me know, physically tell me that you want to be in on the hat wheel. I'm not just automatically putting all my subscribers on the hat wheel. I just want to find out the people that, for one, are participating enough to hear that there's even a hat for sale. So why would I put the people in who I haven't seen in a while? I love them anyway, appreciate their support. But I'm just saying, anybody who knows there are hats and wants one and is a subscriber, you got to let me know, and I'll put you on this list. And now Jess is already on the list, but she wins a ticket, so I'm putting that one ticket on. Now, how I'm doing this, I'm going to repeat myself a few days, but what's going to happen is you are on the list until you win a hat, and then you are at the bottom of the list, or I don't know, maybe I'll do a second list if people really want a second hat once that whole list is done. However that turns out, but hopefully the hats are gone by that time, and we'll go into something else for a giveaway, like, say, check it out, Indoor Farmer fridge magnets. Pow! Ka-ching. Ka-ching. How about some Indoor Farmer stickers? Sorry, it's been a long night. But yeah, we're gonna do some more things. More things coming, more things happening. But yes, congrats, Jess. Now I need to find out who number 17 was. I might even do a dab with y'all. I feel like it's okay. Ed was a grower himself, and try to keep an air of professionalism with our guests, because I don't want to. I don't know. You guys know I've had guests on before that won't come back and won't even respond to me because I whipped out the dabs while we were on. So yeah, I either got to tell them ahead of time or just keep it away. You might say, well, F them. Okay, maybe. Okay, but maybe we would still want to learn from people, even if they don't agree with our ways. All right, who's number 17? Number 18 was Ronald Blackwell. Number 17 was none other than Smashley. Smashley's Garden. Go check it out on Facebook. We're live there now, I think. I shared it in there. Smashley, are you out there? You don't have to be here, but congrats. I can put you down, and whether you want a ticket or not. And Mary, if you want that pink and white hat, definitely let me know. This is how the prices are going to work. The hat, if you are not a subscriber, is going to be $40. That includes shipping. That includes shipping. I will repeat myself. That is so that I can pay for the shipping. That's what that's for. It's going to be about eight. That's going to be $8 to $10 to ship each hat. And so if you are a subscriber, and this is how I'm doing it, you have to have been a subscriber for a month, so like into your second month, or which you could do, and I'll have plenty of hats still, or you pay for the full year on locals for $20, which gives you a dollar. It makes it $1.60 a month, right? It's the best deal that you're going to get, and you get $10 off the hat. So you literally get to pay for a full year for $10. However, which way you work it, so signing up, subscribing to help support me and by vicariously to everything else that I help support would be beneficial already. But if you sign up, you get that deal and get a better price on the hat. So why not? I'm all about win-wins. I'm trying not to buy subscribers, guys. I don't want to buy subscribers, but at the same time, I want my subscribers to totally get a benefit, and maybe not like they needed it, but they get it. It's like here's some goodies, like we do with GrowFam, the GrowFam box going out to Tabby Dabby Doo. Shouts out. Now, if we put the hats on the growfam.com, you'll get a discount. Whether or not you're a subscriber, either way, you could still use the code WTIF10, get a discount. Let's see, it looks like Smashley's gone, but she's actually probably at the hospital right now with her little man. So definitely keep her little man in our thoughts. His name happens to be Waylon as well, so he is definitely part of the Council of Waylons. Council of Waylons is growing strong, so I think we could send them out some Waylon energies. All right, congrats, Smashley. That'll be maybe a tiny bit of dopamine in a night of frustration at the hospital, no less. Yeah, little Waylon. We probably shouldn't call him Little Waylon. I don't want to. I don't want that to stick to the little guy. Call him Big Waylon. Start that up. Just call him Big Waylon. Just call me Waylon. Call me Lukewarm Waylon. I'm Lukewarm Waylon. Hello. What if I did that on my post? Welcome to another Lukewarm Wednesday with Waylon. Welcome to another Lukewarm Wednesday. Aldi Rich in the house. What's up, man? Younger Waylon. There you go. There you go. Young Waylon. Young W. Good night, Dom. You out of here, brother? Yeah, I'm gonna get out of here after this. Smoking on a little bit of Orange Bellini. Orange Bellini. Orange Bellini. Cheers. Cheers to Ed. Thanks again, Ed, for the awesome knowledge. Appreciate it. Shouts out one more time to Yo Dabba Dabba. Yo Dabba Dabba is the company that made this e-nail. I sent them an email for the e-nail, and they sent me a brand new e-nail. It's not an e-nail, but they sent me a brand new terp slurper that fits to the e-nail. $50 terp slurper, guys. Shouts out to Yo Dabba Dabba. It only, it was like 2 weeks, and the previous one had broken. I didn't do anything. It just fell off. So they just sent me a new one. So shouts out to Yo Dabba Dabba. Diamond Dave doing some snowman. Whoa, Jess. Jess, come on now. I missed the education. Yes, it was a a wealth of education tonight for sure. DJ, you missed it too, man. You guys got to check it out. Once you start watching, you're gonna get sucked in. So you better watch from the beginning when my guest got on. Oh snap! My other computer just shut off on me. I'm glad we got the wheels out of the way already. It's getting older. Probably need to get some maintenance on it. Juricious. All right. Grow fam. I love you all. Thanks for the ones who come in on Wednesdays. I really do my best to try to keep it broadening our horizons. That's the idea behind We Grow Wednesday. We like to have fun, but we like to learn something along the way. Definitely be having Ed come back next week. I have another guest planned. As long as it comes through, as long as he's all right, he feels okay. I'm gonna have an in-studio guest, a man who I worked with for a short time when I first got into the culture of the local grow scene, if you will. This man owned a grow shop and commissioned me to build him an aquaponics system. I have had episodes showing it off back in the day, and yeah, it was a pretty badass little system, bigger than the system I have, and it turned out pretty cool. But we parted ways. There was some drama of sorts, but yeah, he got a hold of me, and oh snap, my pill broke. It's not one thing, it's another. If it's not one thing, it's another. Anyway, he got a hold of me and wants to be on the show. And so I said, you know what? Let's make this a Wednesday thing. Big chunk of the pill, the glass pill. Jeez. Guess I can hit it without that, but that's a pain. Let me hit up Yo Dabba Dabba. What's up? Yeah, next week it's going to be interesting. He is a character. He is a bit of a larger than life kind of a guy. Local people will know him as soon as I say him. Anybody locally who remembers his grow shop definitely going to remember him. So yeah, so it's going to be fun. It'll be interesting. Going to be fun. Going to catch up with him, see what he's been up to. And then I actually have a guest plan for the week after and the week after, and I think the week after. So we're going to be having some fun people on the next few weeks. If you guys want to check out my show where I show off what I'm growing, what I have like in my a lot of times it's me not getting things done. Like I'll show you, look, this is where it was last week because I didn't get whatever done, and so it happens. Motivating myself to push forward and keep making more projects and fixing my current setup and whatnot. But then also we have the certified segment, which is on Mondays as well. Sir Steve will be back next week. Had his shouts out to his anniversary this Monday. But we both show off what we got growing on and kind of like, try to motivate ourselves, motivate everyone else on doing just a little bit more in the sustainability front. If you're interested in watching that, it's on Monday nights, 8:30 Central Time. Definitely have more people coming through on a Wednesday. Shouts out to the Grow Fam TV love out there. But that's it for me, guys. Have a good night. Remember, tomorrow night we have the certified Terpy Thursdays at 6 o'clock Central Time, and then you're also going to have my show, People in the Boxes, after that at 8 o'clock Central Time. I think we're probably going to do another current events. I was just trying to say hi. Okay. Hey, thanks, Nick. A local friend. Went to high school with Nick. Thanks for coming in. He's actually part of the Council of Waylands. Seems not everyone knows this, but the Council of Waylands is you're allowed in. You're allowed to pass if your last name is Wayland and it's spelled like his. It's a different Wayland, I know, but he does get a pass. They do get the Wayland pass. I put a few of them in there. Michael Wayland, Nick Wayland. There's a few of them, and they get to come in. There was another one that gets a pass too. I can't remember. Honorary. We have a dog now in the group in the council. Someone posted they have a dog named Wayland, and so now there's a dog in the Council of Waylands as well. So it's building fast. It's building fast. If you have anyone out there, if you know any Waylands, pray for them and get them on the team. Thanks a lot. But yeah, tomorrow night, People in the Boxes, check it out. Then you got, I guess, I want to say Fan Friday this week. I'm not 100% sure, but you got something coming up no matter what. Remember, everybody, where we at? Every single person has to eat, guys. Have a good night.